Super Rugby Trans-Tasman Friday games. We've got two of them. The Crusaders taking on the Force and the Reds taking on the Blues. Kind of important games in their own rights. We'll go through the squads, some of the stats, where the teams are standing and where the predictions are at for these games. And you guys can let me know your thoughts on how you think they may play out. The first game with the Force and the Crusaders. The Force certainly need to do better than they did last week. And that task is not made any easier when you're heading to the Crusaders. Crusaders at home are generally pretty bloody good, basically. However, there may be a little bit of a slight advantage. I don't want to call it that for the Force, in that the Crusaders are resting one of their key guys. For the Crusaders, they are 3 from 3 so far. They are still only in third because they didn't pick up a bonus point win in that opening round game against the Brumbies. So they are a point behind the Blues and the Hurricanes. So in terms of what they need to do, it's just go out and get a bonus point win. That's pretty much minimum expectations. The Crusaders have got Williams, Taylor, and Alaalatoa as their front row. So Williams gets a crack as the starting prop. Tu'ungafasi, that's Isi Tu'ungafasi, is on the bench as well, alongside Jager and Vella as the other front row replacements. Barrett and Dunshea are the locks. Remember, Whitelock is being rested for this one, so Romano comes in onto the bench. Douglas, Havili, and Grace make up the back row, so no changes there. But Sanders is back into the 23 on the bench as well. Hall and Burke. Fergus, Burke, that's your 19 combo. Burke was on the bench last week. Mo'unga is not in the matchday 23. That's he's being rested. The dude has played a lot of rugby. Now, the Force guys can either look at that as an insult, as to say, oh, you think you can rest one of your best players against us? Or they can look at it as an opportunity. They're not playing Mo'unga. That can only be good news. Good chance for Burke to get some minutes. Good chance to see how the Crusaders go without their main guy, because when we get through the stats later, you'll see he is just the top man in so many areas. But either way, it's Hall and Burke, so Drummond's on the bench. McLeod and McKay are the guys covering the backs. Havili, that's David Havili and Braydon Ennor are 12-13. Fainga'anuku moves to the wing. Mataele swaps wings to the right wing, and Will Jordan is there at fullback. So, yeah, it's a bit of a much changed Crusaders lineup. It'll just be interesting to see how that pans out. Robertson, Kaitu'u, and Medrano is the same front row as last week. Well, it's the more familiar one. Kaitu'u was on the bench last week. He starts. Reedy is dropping to the bench as per normal. Thrush and Tamani is their same lock and duo who've proved pretty useful throughout this and the AU season. Lee Warner and Kateka are your 6 and 7, plus Ollie Cullen gets a crack at 8. I don't know much about him, but he takes the place for number 8 this week. Anstey drops to the bench, so we'll see how he goes. They've played a few guys, Thunder, Cullen now, and Anstey previously at number 8 before, so we'll get to see what he's made of. Kubeli and Miotti's that Argentinian 19 combo, a bit more familiar. Godwin and Savita Kurandrani's back at 13. Old TK is back in the starting lineup. Godwin's captain at 12. Kahui is moving to the left wing from the midfield. Pulu's on the right wing and Strachan is at fullback. There's no Rob Carney. McIntyre's on the bench. Olawafela drops to the bench. Pryor's on the bench. Macaulay, Holmes, Wagner, and Reedy, as I mentioned. So the key guys, like I mentioned, Mo'unga, he's their top try scorer, the most defenders beaten, most run meters for the Crusaders. He's not in the lineup. That can only be good news for the Force. Olawafela, though, their top offloader, has dropped to the bench. Fergus Lee Warner is the Force's top tackler. He's a heck of a work rate guy, but then likewise is Koteka. So there's a lot of tackling in that Force back row. I can't comment about Cullen because I haven't seen him play yet. Thrush is their main line-out man. He's the second overall guy for line-out wins in Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. So that'll be a good guy for the Crusaders to maybe target and hopefully shut down from their point of view. It's been Whitelock and Grace for the Crusaders, but Whitelock is likewise rested. So there's two key guys for the Crusaders missing, but Grace is playing. Barrett and Dunshea are certainly no slouches. So, yeah, it will be a fascinating one to see how things pan out. Tries, it's 22-5 thus far in Trans-Tasman. So it's first against 10th, top against bottom. Clean breaks 42-16, so second against 8th. Interestingly, the average meters per carry, 4 being the magic number that you'd like to target. The Crusaders are at 5.2, so really trucking along nicely. The Force are at 2.9. So it's still that kind of... They play a good possession game, but still sometimes struggle to crack down opposition defenses. But maybe they're just looking to smother them rather than kind of, pierce them directly. Tackling percentage, the Force are actually higher than the Crusaders. Now, it's easy to remember the Force got a hiding last week, but the previous 2 games, they have been pretty solid defensively. The Crusaders shipped too many points against the Waratahs last week, which shows their defense is penetrable. Line-out percentages are both kind of similar, 87, 86% respectively. And interestingly, the Crusaders have had the most yellow cards thus far with 5. The Force have had 2. So maybe the discipline is one area. I should say the Crusaders scrum is 3rd overall, whereas the Force is, again, 10th. So it could be another area of concern. But like I said, a few changes in both sides. It is going to be fascinating to see how the Crusaders go without Mo'unga, because he is just such a key man. Even if he's not always getting the try assist, he's often providing the pass to the guy that ends up getting the try assist. So his decision making, his speed, his ability to break the line is just going to be really, really impossible to replace. But I still remember back in the days when Dan Carter retired and this guy, Richie Mo'unga, stood up, and I thought, surely they can't get a guy anywhere near Dan's ability. Well, Richie Mo'unga is pretty bloody good. So Fergus Burke, big shoes to fill, but he gets a crack this week. My dad was supposed to be home to watch this game around to my place, but he's not going to be coming because he's going to come over tonight. So yeah, going to miss the rugby with Gaza tomorrow, but hopefully I'll get to watch it live. We'll see. I'm going to his place to have dinner, so goodness knows how it's going to work. Crusaders by 30 is what the bookies have got, and Crusaders by 20 is what the Rugby Forecast algorithm has. Let's hope it's a bit closer than all that, and that the Forces result last week was kind of a one-off blip. But as I said, the Crusaders will want to tighten up their defence if they're on. So both sides will be looking to be a bit defensively sharper. The next one is a crucial one for my team, the Blues. As they travel to Suncorp to play the Reds, the Blues are flying high. They are in first. They have smashed the Reds. They smashed the Tars. They did concede some points. And then they smashed the Brumbies pretty well. So they are on a perfect record. 3 wins, 3 bonus point wins. But they're facing the Reds, who are the first Aussie team to crack a Kiwi team. It was the Chiefs they beat last week in Townsville. So it's the Blues that are having to do the travel. The Reds are in 6th. They are the top Aussie team, being the only one to get a win thus far, as I mentioned. But the Blues, this is probably going to be their biggest test, and maybe the one that decides whether they get to a final or not. We'll have to wait and see. I'll go through the lineups for this as well. They're largely pretty stable compared to the sides last week. Same front row for the Reds, Whetukamokamo, Fainga'anuku and Tupou. Same second row, Smith and Alaalatoa. Same back row, Scott Young, Wright and Wilson. So it's the same forward pack. One thing we saw about that forward pack last week was they were deadly in the first half, but were often caught quite flat-footed in the second. So it will be interesting to see what kind of use Brad Thorne makes of his bench, because he's a guy who's not afraid to let guys play 80, but sometimes that comes at a wee bit of a cost. McDermott and O'Connor's the same 9-10. Isaac Henry and Paisami's the same 12-13. Remember, Henry came in for his starting debut last week, cracked 2 tries. So good effort from him. And Dalgunu, Vunivalu and Hegedi is the same back 3. So it's the same starting 15 all round for the Reds. Vunivalu's aerial ability has proved really top notch. So he's going to be a challenging guy for the Blues to kind of keep quiet. They have made a few changes on the bench, with Blythe coming in for Udu, Sam Wallace coming in for McCray, which is an interesting one because he's had a cracking season. Sorovi coming in for Kalani Thomas, and Stewart and Dross are still there on the bench. Same front row replacements as well. So as stable as you can almost be for the Reds. For the Blues, likewise pretty stable, maybe an improved lineup if anything. Tuinukuafe, Eklund and Tuungafasi is the front row. Tuungafasi comes in for Renata. So that's a definite scrum improvement. Kauli Tuioti and Tuipulotu is the second row. Goodhue's been good, but he drops out of the 23. Tuipulotu has been kind of coming back from injury, rode the pine a couple of weeks. He's back starting now. Good to have a couple of All Blacks back in the starting 15. He's going to have his work cut out for him, though, because, as I mentioned a few times, Alaalatoa is still having a cracking season. Robinson's captaincy duties are removed with Tuipulotu back, so he's back to being captain. Robinson's still there at 6, though. Papali'i has been defensively really phenomenal this season, making heaps of tackles, getting heaps of turnovers. He's at 7, and Akira Ioane takes Sotutu's spot at 8, so those guys swap places. Christie and Black's 9-10. That's probably been the Blues' best combo thus far. Fa'ane and Rico Ioane are 12-13. Talea, Heem, and Sullivan make out the back 3. Talea is a change. He steps up to replace AJ Lamb. Talea's had a really quiet 2021, but good chance for him. Bryce Heem's been the star of the show for the Blues. I'll get to his stats in a second, and Sullivan's got a big old boot on him. Same front row replacements. Jacob Pearce comes in. Sotutu's there. I mentioned Ruru Plummer, and AJ Lamb drops down as well. Bryce Heem is the top equal try scorer with 4 tries this season. Guess who else is top 4? Well, top 1 with 4. Vunivalu. So both these sides have got a first equal try scorer. Heem is the first guy for clean breaks. Vunivalu is 5th. So both these guys, attacking-wise, have been absolute units. Christie's the Blues guy, best for defenders beaten, which is amazing, as the halfback. But likewise, McDermott's no slouch at testing opposition defences. Liam Wright's one of the top tacklers. Salakai Loto and Talitui are the 2 main line-out guys for each team, respectively. So, yeah, plenty to like. Tries, it's 13-18, so 6th against 3rd. The Blues kind of edging that one. Clean breaks, 5th against 3rd, so 41-32. Pretty close. Defenders beaten, it's 4th against 6th. Tackling percentage is one area that's going to be a little bit bad reading if you're a Queensland fan. The Blues are at 88.6% for 3rd. Despite shipping a few points against the Waratahs, they managed to keep the Brumbies and the Rebels pretty quiet. 77.7% for the Reds, which is good enough for last spot. Very uncharacteristic for a Brad Thorne coached side to be so poor defensively. As I mentioned, they were just so flat-footed last week in that second half as the Chiefs just kind of ran riot in that second half. No excuses this week. The fitness needs to be better. Lineouts, the Reds edge at 92% to the Blues 87%. Scrum percentage, they're pretty tight, 91% and 90% for the sides respectively. So, yeah, big challenge for the Blues. I can certainly remember watching a few pretty miserable games going to Suncorp in the past. Hopefully this one is not like that. Hopefully it is a cracking one. The bookies have got the Blues by 7. The Rugby Forecast algorithm's got the Blues by 9. So we'll have to wait and see. You guys let me know your thoughts. Who do you see getting this one done? The Blues, can they maintain that first spot, or can the Reds really put a marker down to challenge for a potential final spot as long as some other Kiwi teams lose? Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.